say hello and good evening and welcome you all to KOHO and welcome you all to Japantown. So I'm going to kind of run down who KOHO is and why we're here tonight. So KOHO is a arts and culture nonprofit. We're pretty new in Japantown, the youngest nonprofit here. I'm the second youngest ED, so I'm all about looking at the future of Japantown, amplifying voices of our younger generation, and using arts and culture to bring our communities together. And lately, we've done a lot of work around bringing the Western Addition and Japantown back together after quite a bit of time that has passed. And so we're really excited to be here. I have this space for another year. I hope you guys come back for other events that we're having. But yeah, this place, this co-creative hub, as we call it, is for our community, by our community, for our arts and culture, and we're really looking to just bring our generations together, bring our communities together. And right now, it seems like I'm doing a lot of work towards bringing our Western Addition together with Japantown and reconnecting those ties. So I'm super excited. If those from the Western Addition can kind of raise your hand, that would be great. Yay! Western Addition folks. So a little bit, I'm going to walk over here and I hope this doesn't, I'm going to flip through here. So why are we here tonight? So tonight is about storytelling. A lot of these town halls, it's about, people coming up here and talking about, like, this is what we do, this is what the city does. And then there's, folks that listen, and then we ask questions at the end. We are going to have a Q&A at the end. But really, it's about storytelling. If you think about arts and culture and how it can formulate the visions of the future, but also look back at the past, that's why we're here. So tonight is all about storytelling in community together. You're going to hear about the good work that has been made in reconnecting families that were displaced by redevelopment. You're going to hear a little bit more about redevelopment. You're going to hear about what's the why behind the incredible efforts of the city, the community leaders and the members that are doing this work. And this might be the first time you all are hearing about this work that we're doing, but it's been going on for a few years now. So Japantown's just getting involved, and it's a really, really historic and important time for Japantown to get involved. And you'll hear a little bit more about that. And then really to understand the Certificate of Preference program. So this program was launched when redevelopment happened, and it's gone through different iterations. And I've spoken to some of the families that have been displaced, and there's some confusion. There's still do we qualify? Do we not qualify? And so this is an opportunity for OCII and Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to talk about the program as it lives today. And there has been changes, and hopefully this will get you excited about the work that's being done. So this is kind of the rundown for tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about the redevelopment and why this is important to me and to this organization. We're going to bring Ajit up to talk about the new Community Leadership Foundation out of the Western Addition and why this work is important to him and how he got involved with this. We're going to talk with the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development and OCII, and they're going to talk a little bit about the program and what it looks like today. And then we're going to hear from some folks that are actually literally calling these families, connecting with them, talking with them about the program, and give testimonials about some of these folks that actually got this COP in their hands. And then lastly, we'll do a Q&A and how you can find out more. So, sorry, I'm going back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to just stay here for a sec. Redevelopment. So I'm not going to go into all the details because there are many other resources in our community that talk about redevelopment, and that's a whole town hall in itself. I'm just going to give the very, very basic surface, high-level overview in case some of you don't know. So redevelopment of San Francisco's A1 and A2, you can see kind of the areas that that affects. So it's Japantown and Western Addition. You can see that that happened and really affected and reshaped a lot of the city, but definitely the Fillmore District and Japantown. So 1948, the San Francisco Redevelopment Agency was established, marking the start of plans to address urban blight. And in 53, the Redevelopment Agency began redeveloping Area A2 and A1. Japantown's A1, Western Addition's A2, but it displaced thousands of primarily black residents and demolished Victorian homes with promises of revitalization. A1, this is really Japantown in 1966, kind of dived into Japantown and really displaced a lot of our families, Japanese American families, and businesses. And just a quick history of Japanese folks here and how we got to be here. So in 1906, after the big earthquake and fires, the city said, kind of pushed us outside of the city and said, you know, we're going to move all folks of color, so outside of city proper, right? So they wanted to redevelop San Francisco. They said, we're going to push the folks of color outside of the city. That's how we got here. So back then, this was outside of the city. We were the suburbs, we were the ghetto, and it was a beautiful community of Japanese, blacks, Jews, and Filipinos that were all lived in harmony out in this area. And Japantown grew and built to 20 plus blocks of bustling businesses and homes and families and communities. And then World War II happened. And Executive Order 9066, everyone of Japanese descent was asked to, or told to, pack up what they could carry and meet at assembly centers. And so many of our families lost their businesses, lost their homes, lost their belongings, and actually the black community stepped up, and a lot of that they really helped us safeguard some of our personal belongings, the churches, the friends, the folks, you know, they really helped us kind of safeguard some of our things so that when we did return, we had something to return to for those who could come back, and we rebuilt again. So when you talk about displacement of Japantown, it happened to us twice. It happened first with World War II incarceration, and then again with redevelopment. So what's really important about tonight and KOHO and why we're here, looking back at the past, we are on redevelopment land. This mall is all because redevelopment bulldozed this area and became what you see today. KOHO has the honor through Japantown Cultural District to be able to steward this space for the community for the next year. And it's super important for me. It's a bit of reclaiming space for us. So to be able to provide this space for our community, for gatherings like this, for events, I'm just so proud to do this work and happy that you all are here tonight to be here. So A1 and A2 redevelopment phase in San Francisco, approximately 8,000 residents were displaced, 6,000 units of low-cost housing were demolished, again, mostly of Japanese and Black descent. And when folks were given the eviction notice, they were told that they could have a certificate of preference, and that certificate of preference would allow them to return back to where they were displaced, sort of with a promise that they would build housing. And the story goes that the city did not build housing, not enough inventory for all the folks that were evicted, and two, they lost the records. And so this was what, 1966, early 70s? And now there's work that's being done. So here's another photo. So this other photo here is the demolition from a helicopter view of what our community looked like after they evicted folks. It was leveled, bulldozed, and then it sat for a very, very long time. So those folks in Japantown, I wasn't around then, so this is all things that I'm hearing from our community. So, someday we'll have some folks in here really talking about that time. But this area was bulldozed, and then the folks that were around Japantown, they saw their empty lots just sit there for years and years, I would say decades. And so not only was there trauma about displacement and being asked to leave, but then it became, well, you asked us to leave, you said you were going to build something, and then nothing was built for many years. So I think there's so much trauma there that it's hard to talk about for a lot of folks. So then this came up. And this is kind of how we know Japantown today. And so there's a love-hate relationship a lot of times with Japantown. I love being here. I'm a new resident here. I just moved back here, and and it makes such a difference to live in your community that you're working towards and trying to kind of heal wounds and bring folks together. And I think opening our doors to these kinds of conversations that are sometimes tough will help our next generations. It will help our next, stakeholders. It will help city agencies look at what happened to us and how important it is to rebuild our community. So today, Japantown is, because we were forcibly displaced twice, we're only 5% landowners in our own cultural district. We are a minority in the businesses that you see in Japantown. Even though you'll see a lot of Japanese restaurants and stores, quite honestly, I can count on just two hands how many are actually owned by Japanese and Japanese Americans. And so part of KOHO's mission is to be the beacon to bring back Japanese and Japanese Americans to Japantown, hopefully attract Japanese and Japanese American businesses to Japantown, and also share the culture of how we know it, the authenticity of not the traditions of those traditions that have come from Japan, but also giving a voice to the younger generations of Japanese Americans that never really felt they had a place here in Japantown to plug in. So I hope this place becomes, a voice for them, a place where they can hang out, their clubhouse, their home, away from home. We've had a few events that really triggered excitement and enthusiasm for this younger generation, and we're, I think, doing a good job in attracting those next folks to come back and kind of plug in. So. And one of them is Christine Hikito, sitting right here. You'll hear from her in a little bit. But she is one of a great cohort of folks, kind of very interested in Japantown and getting involved again. So the Certificate of Preference Program promised a return from our evicted residents. They didn't build enough housing, and they lost our records. So today, what are we doing? So KOHO, we're trying to bring history to life and generations together. So this past summer, I had an incredible intern that joined KOHO for 8 weeks, and she was really interested in this. And so we ran with it, and she created this program called The Love Letter to Japantown. And it was about stories of resilience. And we had storytellers, Rich Hashimoto, some of you know Francis Wong, who is a professor of Asian American Studies at State, and Joyce, who's here today from Kane. They came in and spoke from their heart about redevelopment and what it did to their families and how it affected them. And these are folks that are still in our community today, thankfully. A lot of folks have left our community. And then we had storytellers, young folks, Lauren Ito, who is a poet, Sarah Matsui, she's a poet, and Greer, who was also a poet. So they were telling stories about how their family circumstances were, and how their elder generations did or didn't share, or how they shared, or what they shared, and it was a wonderful intergenerational conversation about everything from trauma to finding your way into kind of cultural identity of who you are today as a Japanese American. A lot of our so in the 1840s, San Francisco was the first landing place for Japanese to come into the U.S. And now fast forward, we're mostly fourth and fifth generation Japanese Americans, and a lot of us are now mixed race too. So that also kind of plays into the cultural identity of who we are, and like kind of that kind of soul searching of what that looks like. So I will kind of end there. And again, look back. So I would like to invite up J. Crawford from the Western Edition, the New Community Leadership Foundation, and I asked Madrid to talk a little bit about the work he's doing as a community organizer in his community, and why this work is important to him, and how he got into it.
Mic check. Mic check.
Mic check. There we go. That's loud. Well, first, I want to thank Susie from KOHO and the whole team for calling this meeting. It's really important that we all come together. It's a shared history that we have. We can learn from each other. I also want to thank Rich Hashimoto, because that's how I met Susie, and he's really been a big ally for the Fillmore. And I also want to thank the Japantown community, because I don't know if y'all remember, every 10 years they do redistricting for the supervisory lines. And every time that comes around, they always want to separate Japantown from the Fillmore. And the Japantown community has really, I didn't even know what that was about, but they really stood up to make sure that we stay united in one district, with one vote. And so I just want to thank, just acknowledge that. So my name is J. Crawford. I'm Executive Director of the New Community Leadership Foundation, and our organization is rooted in the Fillmore community. Our board president is a certificate of preference holder. Two of our founders are certificate of preference holders. And everyone on our board has been impacted by urban renewal. So it's really important to our organization. My personal story is my great uncle, my grandfather's brother, who I was very close to when I was a child. He actually played on Fillmore Street. So when you see the Harlem of the West book, you can flip through the pages, you'll see him in there. He was someone that could play almost every instrument, the drums, the guitar, banjo, whatever it is. And so a lot of times the bands would be on Fillmore Street playing, and then one of the players calling sick, and they're missing a person, they're calling my great uncle. He'll play. So he was well known, he was well connected in the community. It's probably why my dad wanted to play the saxophone. So my dad was a saxophonist. He was very good. A lot of pictures, playing, very talented, and he wanted to kind of follow in my great uncle's footsteps and play on Fillmore Street. And if people know about Fillmore Street, it had jazz clubs lined up, black-owned restaurants, jazz clubs. People came from around the world to the clubs. And it was really a natural, organic expression of the racial harmony that the people wanted at that time. Because you had white folks spending money in black businesses. Japantown, Fillmore, we all support each other in so many different ways. My dad went to the military. And so when he came back from the military, he came back to play jazz on Fillmore Street, but when he came back, the neighborhood was bulldozed. And it broke his heart. It breaks my heart just thinking about it. There was no more Fillmore. When he was in the military, he realized that in France, they respected black artists. So you notice a lot of black musicians actually travel to Europe to play because urban renewal didn't only affect Fillmore. Urban renewal destroyed the economic base of black culture, jazz, blues across the country. So overnight, the whole economic base of our culture, blues, jazz, was bulldozed. Because the culture was based on the little mom and pop jazz clubs, the restaurants, the record stores. That was the culture. And so he in '79, he went to France to play. He left with a broken heart. And in that year, he never came back. He died in France. And it's hard for me to talk about, but I believe he died of a broken heart. So that's why it's really, it impacts me. That's why this work is important to me. I don't want this to happen to anybody. I don't want this to happen to any community, any neighborhood. And that's why I do this work. That's why I'm so grateful to people like Rich. That's why I'm so grateful. This is my first time being here in Japantown speaking on this. I know the community here speaks, and we speak in Fillmore separately, and the Jewish community that's been impacted speak, and the Filipino that's been impacted. Everyone speaks separately. This is the first time we're all together. And so I'm just grateful to Susie for this, to KOHO, for the Japantown community. And so before I introduce Giles, so when the OCII, that's the former redevelopment agency, when they put out an RFP to do this search, we knew this search wasn't about going knocking on doors in the neighborhood. Because people have been displaced. People in Texas, people in Antioch, you can't just go to the neighborhood, knock on doors. That's not how it works. People are displaced. Thousands of people is all across this Bay Area in this country. So we knew it was more than just knocking on doors. But we knew it had to be a community effort. It had to be people that were certificate holders, people that's impacted by urban renewal, being part of the investigative team. Our organization, we're community organizers. We provide technical assistance to businesses. We help businesses raise money. We're not investigators. When someone doesn't pay their car note and they run off, and how they find you, that's what we needed. We needed the high tech skills of finding people no matter where they're at. And so we put out a notice into the atmosphere saying, hey, there's grants out there. We're looking for a private investigative company that will work with us and train our people to do the research. That's not an easy thing to do because people with that level of skill, they don't want to share the game. They don't want to share the ability because that's competition. So we needed to find a company that really was passionate about partnering with us, sharing the game, and locking elbows with us. And so we put it out there in the world, and I think the company did as well. And that's how I was fortunate enough to meet Giles from Link Insight, a private investigative company, high-tech company, and we were able to partner together and do this work. We've been highly successful at finding people. The work that we do is really the investigators. So they're going to come up and talk in a little while. But for now, I just want to bring up Giles from Links Insight to kind of share a little bit about what he does. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Actually, you know what? I'm realizing sitting in the back that maybe we should talk about the certificate of preference program first before we jump into kind of the work. So let's see. Yes. So I will hand it over. I'll do your slides for you.
Oh, yeah, so, sorry. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm Angie Nelson. I'm with the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, and I'm here with Pam Sims.
Hi. I am with the Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure, which is the former redevelopment agency.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And I work with Andy on the COP program, and she has fantastic presentation for you.
And thank you so much for having us. I'm really honored to be here. I used to work with the planning department and have only been working with the mayor's office for the last year, and I'm just, oh, thank you. Oh, That's better. Okay. And I'm just like so excited to be a part of this because I feel like the energy, everyone's coming together, the word is getting out. I'm going to talk about how we're opening up the certificate to even more areas in the city. And so people, this promise that was made, we are fulfilling it to the best of our abilities together. So this is really great. Okay, I'm going to talk about the certificate of preference. We did that. Okay, so the certificate of preference, so households and their direct descendants who were displaced by the former San Francisco Redevelopment Agency in the 1960s and 70s. So when we say households, this is anyone who lived in the home between when the building was bought by the former redevelopment agency and when that family had to move, when it was vacated. And sometimes that's 6 months, sometimes that's 8 years. So anyone that lived in that period of time, they are eligible, and then anyone who is directly descended from them. So that's blood relationship or foster children. Okay. So I know you already saw this map, but I put some street names on here because it's the worst map and we're gonna make it better. But so, this, just to orient everybody, so this is Fulton Street, this is Broderick, up here is Bush, and then over there is Franklin, is on the edge here, Franklin. So, so anyone, all these buildings, all these homes, all of that was purchased by the redevelopment agency. And so people who lived there were provided a certificate of preference. Some people didn't know that they had one. Some people were children and just thought, oh, my family moved. But you actually are eligible for a certificate of preference. And I think another thing I'd say is the span is pretty big. So some of the properties here were purchased in like early 60s. And then people didn't move until the mid 70s. So it's a big time span. Okay. So make sure. Because it's really Pam's program. Okay, so then in 2022, the state of California expanded their certificate of preference program. So it used to only be the people who lived in the home were eligible. Now, based on the state, it is expanded to descendants, but it also, because it's expanded to descendants, that means that the people who lived in the expired project areas are also eligible, and all of their descendants. It's very wonky, but that includes Yerba Buena, so this is this huge area in Soma, this south of Mission, Embarcadero, Diamond Heights, in all this area in Hunters Point. Some of that, in Hunters Point, those folks were already eligible, but there are different pockets that opened up.
And I just want to say that's what Andy said wasn't a small thing, because what happens in the development world is that 2 years after the project area expires, the certificate of the preference to come back into the project area, it also expires. So, because of AB 1584, which is the legislation that Andy mentioned, not only are the descendants eligible, but individuals who are actually living in the units at the time of displacement, no matter what project area, they are also eligible.
Okay. I can repeat it. Okay. So the expired, some of these, like Yerba Buena, for example, that the certificate of preferences that were provided to people at the time, those expired. So they were no longer relevant. But because of the state legislation that passed in 2022, that means that they are back on the table. So they're eligible again. Okay, next slide. Okay, so if you think that your family lived, in one of these homes during this time period, then it is worth talking to us and the investigators, which they'll talk to you about later, and apply for a certificate of preference. So the way that you do that is you complete an online application, and I will show you the webpage. And then you can enter information about your head of household's name, the displacement address, the COP number, if you have it. If you don't, it's okay. But the more names that we have, the better. So what we then do, just so you know what we do on the Mayor's Office of Housing side, is we get an application, and then we have all of these records that have been scanned, all of these handwritten notes and correspondences and everything that have been scanned, and we search through all of those to try to find people's families. Sometimes people's families' names were spelled incorrectly. Sometimes, who knows where their grandparents lived in 1962. So we work with applicants to try to find the records that match the family members. And then usually what we need in order to complete an application is a birth certificate and an ID to just show your identity, and then to show your lineage. We just have to show that people are related to each other. And then we have a certificate of preference hotline that is open during the weekday, 5 days a week, for people who have questions. Okay, next slide. So this is our webpage. And you can learn a lot on this webpage actually, but down at the bottom it says submit an online application. You can click on that link. Okay, so what does a certificate do? So once you have a certificate, then you are given priority in our affordable housing lotteries. So the city manages a number of buildings. Some of them are all 100% affordable units within one building. Some of them are new buildings that you see go up, and then a percentage of those housing apartments are affordable. The certificate of preference gives folks the top, the priority of that lottery. So if we have 20,000 people who, we don't have 20, if we have 10,000 people who apply, then all the people who have a certificate of preference rise to the top of that pool. So that just means that you have the first pick. You still have to income qualify, which means, different units, there's a lot to talk about there, but we have housing counselors that help people figure out where they qualify for. You can use your certificate twice, so once for rental and then once for so it's affordable rental or affordable home ownership. Or if you're a senior, you can use it that second time for rental for senior buildings. And it's not a subsidy. It doesn't come with any money. Unfortunately, it's not full reparations. It gives you a priority in the housing lottery. Okay, next slide. So there are some caveats to this right now because just because of the way the state law was written, we still have to adopt part of that state law as a city. So because of that, the descendants right now their COP is only eligible to bump them up to the top of buildings that are owned and operated by the former Redevelopment Agency. And we do have those buildings. There are over 200 in the city. So we do have a lot, but it's not as many as the original displacees. They can apply to any affordable housing in the city and get to the top of that list. And that's really a Board of Supervisors change. And so we're hoping with the new mayor and the new board that this is something that will move forward. Okay. Next slide. So for descendants, because it's so confusing because of this, we have a lot of resources. So we have a directory that we give to all of the descendants. Actually, we give it to all the certificate holders. and it has all of the buildings that the redevelopment agency owns and operates that the certificate of preference holders can call to get on the top of the wait list, and a lot of people are getting off those wait lists and getting into housing. We also have an online, like, interactive dashboard, we call it, for people who want to do kind of the same thing online on the webpage. We also refer folks to housing counselors. And as I said, we're working to expand it with the Board of Supervisors and the new mayor. And then we have a COP hotline. Did I miss anything? Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that was informative for folks, at least as just dipping our toe in the water, just to kind of looking at what options are on the table. And we'll have more opportunity to ask questions at the end, because I have questions, and I have thoughts, and I have vision, so we're all good. So next, I would like to bring up Baz Miller, who, was found through this incredible partnership, and he is an investigator, a private investigator, which is tricky because I've never met one before. So anyway, he'll tell you all about the work that he's done and how it could and will impact our community.
Great, thank you, Susan. So as Majid said, an RFP came out. I think it was about 4 years ago, and this RFP came to my attention through somebody who was, involved in equitable housing, and just looked at it and said, "Hey, isn't this what you do?" And I looked at it, and RFP said, "Okay, we've got 10,000 people displaced 50 plus years ago. We need to find where they are now and contact them and find verified contact information for them." And it was kind of like, well, yeah, that's what we do. That's what a private investigator does, finds people. But that's a lot of people. And then a closer read of the RFP, it was a little different. It talked a lot about the community and wanting the community involved. And it just it was different. It was, and I think we have some of the authors in the room with us, so it caught my attention, and I started asking around, and things led to things, and I met Majid Crawford, and it was just a phone call, and we started talking, and it was like, okay, well, this could happen, and we put together this proposal that included doing what we do and finding people and cold calling them and tracking people down, and then doing what NCLF does, which is getting the word out to the community, involving people. And then we just started reaching out to people and hiring people from the community who would be interested in doing this work. And it was a little ill-defined at times. Is this data entry? What are we doing here? It's like, it's not data entry, right? So like the investigator mindset is, left brain, right brain. You gotta be intuitive, but you also have to be, box checking and doing, following the list and not missing anything. It's incredibly difficult work, and we have basically 10,000 mini investigations to complete. So it's been, 2.5 years. We've been doing this now. We're in our third phase. We have an incredible group of people. Some people have cycled out. Investigations it's just not for everybody. It's grueling work. It's kind of fun work. It's inspiring work. It gets emotional doing these calls. We were just working this afternoon and called a family that just swore they had never been in San Francisco and didn't want to talk about it, and we were confused. It just goes in all different directions, and you have to stay on your toes and you have to be human when doing this work. And so it's just been a real privilege and pleasure to work with this group of people, and I'd love to invite one or two of them up to just talk a little bit about the work they've done. If that sounds like a good idea. I've been leaning on one of our great investigators, Hubie Jasper, who's here, and I'd like to invite her to go up and say a couple words. She's found more people in more creative and inventive ways than I could count. I'd have to go crunch some numbers to get to the bottom of it.
Well, that's because he's checking everything. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I guess I could say what my job is to locate people and get their correct input, their correct address or whatever, so that when the City Hall reaches out to them, they can be found. Now, it's grueling, but sometimes it's fun. A lot of times I've been accused of trying to do identity theft. And then I've been accused of just harassing somebody. But I got the information. Yeah, so basically I really like the job, and then sometimes I really don't. If you get different kind of calls, for instance, the other night I got a call from Robert. Robert said to me, Hubie, I just thought about something, 7 o'clock at night. I just thought about something. I said, what did you think about, Robert? How do I know that you're not trying to take my identity? Because I be at work every day. I said, well, did I ask you for your ID number? Did I ask you for your driver's license number? Did I ask you for a social security number? I said, then why would I give you my phone number, so I'm going to take your identity? So he said, yeah, that's right. I said, okay, good. But you get those kind of calls all the time. Once in a while you want to get upset about it, but you really can't, because I have a heart for this. At first it was just a job, but I really got into it and I really enjoy it, and it really hurts me when I can't get the person that I need. But I'm getting more than I thought I'd get. I always open up with, hello, my name is Hubie, and I work with blah, 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 and please forgive me for invading your private space, but can I just talk with you a little bit? Sometimes they love that. Sometimes they'll say, well, good, bye, So you try something else. But for the most part, I love it. The one thing I wish they had was like, Giles has made some, what do you call those sheets you made for us to use for?
Scripts.
Yeah, I wish we had some of those to mail like to people who cannot use the internet, the older people. When I get to them, my heart goes out for them. So I take your sheet and I kind of revise it a little bit and put their name in there and mail it to them. Because I want them, because they said, okay, I'll sign up, but I really don't know what it is. I said, well, I'll get it to you. I have several names now that I have to mail to, so that's important to me. And there's another thing that I wanted to mention too, was that the people, a lot of times, I don't know why, but they just lie. They just lie and say, well, no, I don't know her. I heard your voicemail. Hello, this is Sally. I heard it in a voicemail, and but they just, I don't know why. They lie. But I usually get them. I'll just come back a couple of days later. I usually get them. Yeah, I do. I really pride myself in getting them to talk to me. I do everything I can to get them to talk to me, because once they really talk to me, they're really interested. But, like I was talking to Sally, when I talk to like a Japanese person or a Chinese person, they just don't trust me. So what happened is, I'll get the kids, and then I'll ask the kids, do you have an email? And I'll send the email to the kids, which you explain it to your mom and dad. Sometimes they get back, sometimes they don't. But overall, it's really rewarding because I was affected by this thing, so I know what it's like. It's really rewarding for that matter, but otherwise it can be grueling. Anyway, I'll stay on the job.
for sharing. Thank you. So I just to connect the dots for some folks. So this work has been going on for a while. How many names are on this list, and what's the aggregate, like where did the names come from? Because I think that would be helpful to.
Yeah, so we were given a Excel spreadsheet by OCII, and just big number is 5,800 households, and that could be anything from 9+ member family to a single member household, and just over 12,000 individual names. So that's what we're dealing with.
Is that just A1 and A2?
And so that is A2 and Hunters Point Bayview.
Okay.
So it doesn't include A1.
And then where did those names come from?
So this was, I don't know. I just was given an Excel spreadsheet.
Do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I like your plausible deniability. So in 2000, it was before dissolution, so in 2009 and 10, the Redevelopment Agency did another study. Back in 2009, I know it wasn't that long ago, but there really wasn't a Giles kind of person around to do database searches and all this stuff. So they looked in white pages and yellow pages for current contact information. And so out of the list that they got from site occupancy records, which we have in our files for A2 and Hunters Point, they put down all the names of everybody that was on the site occupancy records in theory, but let's just say mostly. And then they tried to put the contact information. Well, as Giles found out, there were people missing from the list. There are people that aren't even identified in households. So and this is one of Giles' favorite things to say, that if a household had more than 8 children, they stopped. They just didn't record any of the other children beyond age. So they find other children, other siblings of the people that they find. In addition to that, because of database searches and because of the investigators and because of all the work that they're doing, they're actually able to find current contact information. And what Giles did not say is, because the descendant legislation came about in 2022, when we had already contracted with Giles and Majid, now we're finding a lot of descendants, which really isn't the scope of the contract, but that's beside the point. What we're doing is we're finding people, and we're getting people excited again about the COP program and taking advantage of it. And one thing that Andy didn't say is that even if you can't qualify now for an affordable housing unit because you have a job or you're just not in the mood, get your certificate, because you never know when you're going to want to use it. Yeah. So, and I know it seems like a lot, and I know government is scary, but we're really nice people. So I would talk to investigators and then contact Andy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So kind of like, I'm kind of patchworking this together. But a couple of things, so my vision for those who lived in Japantown, again, talking to folks that have been displaced or could qualify, I hear a lot like, oh, I tried to qualify before, many years ago, and I didn't because I now own my own house. And so they were turned away. And I also hear like, oh, well, our families won't qualify or folks won't qualify because we are outside of the low to moderate income level. Or why would I want my COP because I'm going to get placed in Hunters Point, right? But something to think about is, like Pam said, just get it. Just if your family was displaced, get it. One, it holds accountability to the city, and the more families that hold those COPs, you never know how legislation will change. And for me personally, I would like to see our Japantown community, our Japantown families placed back here, or families placed in areas where they were displaced from. And so folks like the housing element, San Francisco housing element that's coming up, or that just passed, I think it's 82, Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, 82,000 units of housing that will be erected in San Francisco between now and 2030, I think it is, because San Francisco has a lack of housing in general. And as many of you know, Safeway is going to be demolished. There's going to be a ton of housing there. So if you have your COP, then who knows what that will look like. Thank you. So yes, so now they don't expire. So before they expired, apparently, but now they don't. So it's always changing. And I think the more people, one, that have their certificate would be great. And then number two, how do we, those that have their certificate, how do we rally together to change legislation, to, march down to City Hall with a whole new, legislative, new mayor, new district supervisor, like how do we kind of influence them to make right wrong? OCI has commission meetings. I've been going. I've been learning a lot. And these two are incredible. Yes. Pam and Andy, if you call them, they will actually pick up. So they're there to help us. So I just kind of wanted to toot my horn a little bit on that. Did you want to speak, Missy?
I can a little bit about community.
She is an amazing investigator, full of vibrancy. Meeting her was like a bright light, and really empowered my thought and inspired me to get involved with this work. So I'd love for you to just say a little bit about your work and why it's important to you.
Hi, so my name is Lynette Mackey, and I started with the program. I started as an investigator. It was spooky at first too. We're investigators and we're calling, but it's a lot of heart-filling work. I'll start by saying I lived on Eddy and Webster. My grandparents owned 2 homes. My mom owned one and my grandfather owned one in Redevelopment. Ours was not demolished. We were told that it was condemned and we had to move. But my grandfather did not want to sell, so he didn't. But he died. The next day, Redevelopment was knocking on the door. You have to go. And that's how we had to leave. And they told us that it was going to be demolished. It's still standing today. We're at 2.9 million, but they gave us 28,000 for 2. So I have a heart for this because there's others that's gone through what I'm going through. But about the work, I really enjoy calling people, getting to know them, talking to them, and letting them hear my story, to know that I know where you're coming from, and let's talk. Let's take advantage of the certificate of preference. And it went very well. I guess I did pretty good. They liked me. And I started taking it into the community, having community meetings. I literally had a meeting the other day at the Korean church on Webster Street. And at that meeting, there was quite a few Japanese in there. And I learned that some of them had their certificates but didn't know what to do with them. Didn't have any knowledge. I spent longer than I wanted to in there, but I sat down to make sure they understood how to use it, how to use the hotline, how to make that phone call to find out if you're not sure. Because there is a language barrier with us and some of the older generation. But what I want to do is, if I can help you, I can get you that number to call. I don't know, but we called in one time and we didn't have a translator, but what we winded up doing was I found a translator to translate to her so we made it happen. But the the goal is just to get the message out and to make sure that you understand, yes, they took something from you, but now they're trying to give something back. And let's make sure it goes down to the descendants, because that's really the ones that can take advantage of it in this time. And then their kids and their kids. Let's go as far as we can with it, you know. But I just want to say that because of this, Giles and Majid has made a big difference in our community, because so many people now are talking about COP. That was not a conversation I heard before you guys. COP, we knew about it because my mother had one, and I'll just tell you guys a funny story because they already know it. My family was on that list, so I know how it goes. For them, my daughter got a certificate, but they couldn't find me. Okay, that's just what you call human records, where one person is left off. It was weird, but it was happening. But we worked together and we were able to get it. Now I have my certificate. But to find that I found a lot of people that were homeless, when I reached them, they've gotten their certificate and they're now in housing. That's the goal. Thank you.
So when Rich connected me to Giles and Majid through email, we had a couple conversations. And one thing, and then I met Lynette, and I met all these beautiful investigators. We had a little meeting here. And one thing they talked about was sometimes when they're calling the list, and mostly it's A2 right now, right? But our Japanese community, it spans into A2, right? So they're calling, and some of the Japanese elders are asking, you know, are you Japanese? Do you speak Japanese? And they say no. And so when I met with them, they were very much like, we need somebody in the community to speak on behalf of the people that lived in this community. And so that's how, I mean, I kind of already knew about it. You know, when I was at Cultural District, Emily Marase's here, Media Cultural District, when I was, yes, give her a round of applause. So the work at JTF and Cultural District, I was there for a couple of years, and this really sparked my interest. Like, how do we help our community? How do we bring back Japanese to Japantown? How do we bring our communities back together? And so, met these two great folks, learned about the program, learned about the community investigators, is what they're called. And then from there, went to an OCII meeting because they were vying for funding at the time, right? They're like, you need to come. So I was up there, I was speaking on behalf of Japantown, you know. I was the only one there from Japantown. Rich has been there before, but I am kind of sort of helping steward that along as well on behalf of Japantown. And kind of looked at all the commissioners, and I'm like, you had the opportunity to make right wrong. You had the opportunity to make bring our people back. And so please do what you need to do to make that happen. What has transpired since then, my second OCIA meeting that I went to just a couple months ago, it was revealed that a planning intern, summer intern, found 99,000 pages of handwritten notes from A1, from Japantown, that they didn't have before. So, is that right? No? Okay, come, correct me.
Okay, so actually what happened was we had a summer intern, and the redevelopment agency has boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of records. And because we have pretty much a handle, as much as we can, on A2 and Hunters Point, we really wanted the next area because a lot of people from A1, because people don't know the difference between A1 and A2. Right. They just know that they were displaced from the Fillmore.
Right.
So MOCD is getting a lot of calls, and they're from A1 households. So what we had the intern do was, I pulled all of the A1 boxes, and what he did was go through, see if there's names and addresses, and we gathered them together. We just started the scanning with the company, and hopefully soon we'll have decent records that So MoCD can look up the names and or addresses of individuals and put the puzzle pieces together. So that's
Thank you. But it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time because of those handwritten notes, and I might be wrong, but I'm going to say it, that those families might have access to those records, maybe? No? Or to at least see what the conversation was when their families were displaced? No?
The interesting thing is if in fact it's themselves and their families, then yes. However, because of privacy, and we want to keep people's information private, the wider community just can't get a list of names. Addresses, yes, and that's our goal, to put it out there, put it on the MoCD website and OCI website. But not the names unless MoCD has already confirmed that that's part of your family.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Well, I mean, if you're part of the family, and say you're second or third descendant generation, and you want to find out more, that might just, in terms of like genealogy and understanding where your family was and what was happening, I think that these have everything from occupation to, where they lived, and maybe some information that might be really helpful to understand who that person was when they're evicted. Yes.
Oh, can I make a
Yeah. Well, okay, one choice. Okay. So it's an exciting time because I think that might open up a lot more information about A1 families. And so KOHO getting involved in this work it's a pivotal time for us. Majid and I were talking earlier how this really is a historic time for us to find these families that we haven't really known about or had a connection to, or they're lost in the abyss of leaving and not being able to return. So that's really exciting. One more person I'd like to bring up is Christine Hikido. Christine, I've known her from a few years now on different aspects of our younger community, a young leader, super enthused and inspired about the work that she wants to get into and learn about Japantown. And she has come on as KOHO's first community investigator on behalf of Japantown. So maybe you can talk a little bit about you and your graduate degree and why you're interested in this work.
Yeah, thanks, Susie. Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Hikido, and I grew up in San Jose, and I was part of the San Jose Japantown community. And my background is in urban planning. I have a bachelor's in urban studies and a master's in city planning from Berkeley, which I just finished. And a lot of my education was actually focused on urban renewal. I remember we would always watch documentaries on redevelopment in the Western Addition. And we also read case studies on Sacramento Japantown, which was completely destroyed in redevelopment. And today there are only 3 Japantowns left across the country. There used to be dozens, but many of them got destroyed. So I think coming out of school, I was really interested, I was thinking about all these things that I learned in school, and like, okay, what do I do now? Like, how do I actually address this history? And then, this opportunity came up working with Susie and KOHO, and it's been really fun so far. I thought it was really great for me because I'm actually very good at stalking people. I told my sister I'm doing this, and she said, "Oh, it's perfect for you." And so I've been doing it for a few weeks now, and I think what I've really enjoyed most so far has just been getting the opportunity to listen to people's stories, to learn about what they went through in redevelopment, and it's really great to see a couple folks here that I got to talk to on the phone. And if I haven't talked to you yet, I'd love to connect with you afterwards. That's a little bit about me.
So Christine and I go through kind of the names that she knows, like in Japantown, and as being involved with this community for the past 13 years, raising my kid here as a parent, volunteer, you kind of get in the weeds of like knowing folks, and mostly through our kids. A lot of us are parents, having to volunteer, so we have to get to know each other. But it was really beautiful to see the Shimamoto's in the back and to see their name on it. Kate and my kid and Kate, like they're like this, and our kids grew up together, and so here she is with her father, learning about the COP program, and I really hope that you dive into that because you don't know what that's going to open up for you. So just in a few weeks that we've been doing this work, we're already making a dent a little bit in our community. So it's really, really been a beautiful thing. One thing I kind of want to talk about, like what's next for our post. Is there anybody else that you wanted to bring up to talk about? Anybody else from the Western Edition want to talk about it? Yeah.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Ace Washington, and as you see, I am the Fillmore Corridor Ambassador. I've been doing that for over 10 years on my own. And before that, I was a community activist, and before that, I was recreated the WAPAC. Some of y'all may know that in here. And I go back to over at YMCA over there. So I have long history of the Western Edition in the Fillmore, and I've just been awarded some funding to do the Fillmore Corridor Ambassador meetings and the Fillmore Corridor tours. And I want to try to keep the Japanese community involved with the tours. I know Redevelopment Agency, the OCI, and I know you, but I go way, way back, okay? But what I want to say, I'm really pleased, I'm tickled, not pink, but black right now, that we all coming back together, all the different communities, because that's what's needed here. So I just had a couple of questions now. Way back in the days with Mary Rogers was with WAPAC, they sued Redevelopment for the list, the master list. Now, I know the list that y'all have is just a partial list, and that's good, and you're doing wonderful things. You got your investigators, and you come a long way, but you still got a long ways to go. I would be interested in finding out not just the partial list, but there is what they call the master list. It's a master list that Redevelopment has. Now, it may be hard to find it now since Redevelopment has turned into OCII, and all the different employees are gone now. And they have a few there that's been around when I was there. But I'm just happy that we put it back together, and I'm glad. So I won't go into much more now, but my name is Ace, and I'm on the case.
Thank you, Ace. Y'all gonna remember Ace, right? And Annette and like folks. I mean, this is it makes me really, my heart is warm when we're bringing these communities back together again, and we're like a younger generation looking at, what does that look like? Gary Street Corridor divided us, and like, let's not make that, let's stop that right now. Let's like bring us back together. So, yeah, so kind of like next steps, and then I can open up for questions, but next steps is, KOHO would like to be a community hub for this work. We would like to have more community investigators. We'd love to reach out to certain people in our community that have been longtime foundings, generations that are still here, the few of them that are still here, and start looking at names and looking and working. Christine has a list. Adrian, her grandfather was a resident here, and so she had no idea really what was happening when I spoke to her about a month ago, so I'm really glad she's here too. But we'd love to tap into folks, if you're retired and you might have a little time and you might want to kind of help us comb through the list and see if there's family names that you might remember, and give us a little bit more information. I know this work is about finding families and learning history about Japantown. And so it's been really, really integral, and Christine's been really enjoying that work and bringing us back together. So KOHO, give me a few months, but we are going to have a page on our website that has resources to both OCII and MOCD, but also the many articles, the videos that have come out about redevelopment and how it's affected Japantown and the Western Addition. I can't find one place that has all this information. So I think would be really great to have a page, a place to see what's happening, how to get connected, how to ask questions, or just even as an educational opportunity for a younger generation to understand what happened and how to get involved if they want. So if there was a clipboard going around, a light blue clipboard, hopefully it's someplace. Look at you holding it. If you could, if you'd like to put your name and email on that list as we develop this website, as we dive into this a little bit more, as we connect with young people and have more programs about poetry and art around this subject. Art is a catalyst to healing, and understanding and generational fluency between elders and younger folks, and then how, I have an 18-year-old that started college, what can I share with him, and the importance of this work and the importance of building community. We have an opportunity here to make history, right? And to bring our communities together and be together in this crazy time of what's happening in the world. If we can all just remember who we are as people within our community, I think that is going to be sort of the pivotal moment of what we can do now. The future is ours, even though it doesn't seem like it right now. The future is ours. I mean, we have an opportunity to take these 4 years and really come together as a community, prepare for whatever might be next, but we're stronger in numbers, and the more we are together, I think the bigger difference we can make. So, so there's the clipboard. Nancy has the clipboard there. Nancy's a longtime resident in Japantown, still here. Love that she's here. She's on the other side of Geary, but comes over almost every day. But anyway, if you have any questions, I think we're all here. Does anybody else want to chime in or have other questions for any of us or the folks in the room? All right. Well, I just want to thank you all for coming. I hope it was informative. I hope that it added value to your Monday night, and I hope sign up for our mailing list, plug in, and again, we're here for you.